This is Soccer with Coach Mark Davis.
What's up? This is Mark Davis, again here with Johnny Larson. We're going to do a part 2 on recruiting. That was our first podcast about a month and a half ago, and it's by far been our most successful podcast, has the most listens, and got a lot of emails, got a lot of feedback, DMs on Instagram, and people seem to be really interested in this topic. And please give me a follow at Coach Mark Davis 11 on Instagram, and give our YouTube channel a push subscribe there at Coach Mark Davis.
Well, great to be with you again, Coach. So the first question I want to start off with is, for you, what makes a good highlight film?
Quality. Quality needs to be there. The video needs to be high. If you're doing it on a cell phone, at ground level, on indoor, coaches aren't into that. Invest into a nice tripod, invest into a decent camera. But in my opinion, there's no reason why you couldn't get pretty good film, on a decent tripod, on a decent camera for less than $300. So I think that would be something, that would be the first thing. Next thing is make sure your greatest highlights, your best highlights you have, are at the very beginning. Okay? Because coaches are very busy. As you know a little bit about my schedule, and know that, if they don't grab the coach's attention in the first, minute or 30 seconds even, then there's a good chance the coach is not going to spend too much more time on it. Focus on the quality. There's no need to have the highlight film be more than 3 to 4 minutes. And, if you want to put music in it just to kind of give it a little bit of flair, it doesn't have to be too crazy. Show some diversity in the video as well, 1v1, crosses, can he clip in a ball, can she swing in a nice cross, how does she in tackles, in transition and recovery, how does she do, and make sure to point out who you are in those clips, and just watch some highlight films, do the research on breaking that down, and I think it really will help you.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it any better, Coach. So how do you think is the best way to really reach out to a coach, and is that like email or a phone call, or in your opinion, what do you think is the best way to reach out?
My opinion, I think it should start with an email. It should start with a nice professional email, introducing yourself. Hey, this is my name, this is my graduation year, this is my club team, high school, GPA, my schedule that's coming up for the club season or the high school season, or hey, I noticed you're going to this tournament, I'll be at this tournament. I think it should probably start with email, but everyone's situation's different. There is no right or wrong way to get recruited. It's just, there is a way that's probably going to get you more looks than not.
Great. And as a coach, what do you think when you receive an email that you feel like maybe it's just been sent in a mass form to a bunch of different coaches? What can players do to get away from that?
Yeah, so currently head coach of men's soccer program at Salt Lake Community College, junior college. Our women's team finished number 9 in the country. Our men's team finished at 14th?
I believe so. 14th
in the country, and we get hundreds of emails per week, and probably out of those hundreds of emails, I would say a good portion of them are mass emails in regards to, they sent that same email to everybody, every junior college, every NAIA, every Division II, and maybe even Division I program. And I don't spend any time, specifically if it's not, directed at me, or I feel like they have no idea on what my program is. I'm not spending very much time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it just doesn't take a whole lot to just figure out a little bit about a school. Like, I think that's one of the most important things, is to figure out a little bit about the school before you try and reach out to them, and just show that you're actually interested in the school.
How would you put that in there?
I mean, your email could, like, the very first line could say, "Hey, I want to congratulate you, coach, on your SWAC championship victory, and I'm super interested into your school," and just go into your email after that and just show that you've actually expressed some interest in the school. Next question. So you sent the email off to the coach and you haven't heard back from them. Is it okay to follow up to that email, or should I just take it as a loss and move on, or what do you think?
Absolutely not. I think continue to send the email, continue to reach out, try to shake that coach's hand. If you see him or her at the field or at the tournament or at the ID camp, just continue to, don't be annoying. Okay, don't put yourself in a situation where that coach is going to say, "Oh man, even if that player was, an all-conference player, I wouldn't want that player on my team because I find him or her to be annoying." But you got to put yourself out there. The coaches get loads of emails that all look very similar. So you need to send a lot of emails if that's one of your top schools. You need to put yourself out there. And what's the worst that can happen? They don't email you back, or they say no.
Yeah, perfect. One thing that I remember talking to you about is it okay to ask the question in your email, "What can I do to get recruited?" Is that something that's okay to ask, or should you stay away from being really bold like that?
No, I think what would happen there is the coach probably would say, "I would love for you to come to my ID camp." And you're recruiting the coach, and the coach is potentially recruiting you. But I've always said this with men's and women's soccer, which is my world. If you want to play college soccer and you recruit yourself hard enough, you will find a place to play. If you're a proper player that plays at a proper standard and you recruit yourself hard enough to enough schools, you'll find a place to play. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah. You talked about an ID camp. Do you want to expound what an ID camp is, and maybe a good way to approach an ID camp as far as like preparation before and after?
Yeah, so ID camps generally stand for identification camp. These are camps that coaches, I think at every college, every university, every successful program that I know holds themselves an ID camp. They're a great opportunity for coaches to see players inside their environment, on their home pitch, on potentially them even running the training session, getting to see their mannerisms, on how they react inside the training environment. So if you have an opportunity and finances will allow you, I suggest you go to as many identification camps as possible. You said kind of the pre. I really would highly suggest sending an email prior to the camp. I would highly suggest the student athlete coming up to the coach before the camp, in the middle of the camp, shake his or her hand. "Hey, my name is so-and-so. I love your program. This is my GPA. This is what club team I play for." Don't assume the coach knows you. I think sometimes these young kids, you say their name once, or you just got to be constantly reminding head coaches, assistant coaches, graduate assistants, "Hey, my name is so-and-so. This is who I am." So become very likable. And I think if you do that, you give yourself a much better shot at getting to play for that university.
Perfect. You mentioned something that made me think that is super, super important. When reaching out, should you just reach out to a head coach, or is there more than just the head coach you should reach to?
every person. If they got the kit, if they got the jersey guy, they got the kit guy on email, I would say email that person. So generally speaking, most programs have, a head coach and 2 assistants and potentially even a volunteer or a graduate assistant. You got to put, depending on how serious you are about that particular program, send them a personalized email, all of them. How long does it take to write an email? 4 or 5 minutes? Write 5 separate emails. Or write one email, CC, put the head coach as the head coach and maybe the associate head coaches on the top line, CC everyone else. That should probably do the trick as well.
Great. To you, is there like a preference? So I want to go to like these 10 schools. Is there a preference to the order that I should go? Like, would I go to, like, say an example is like my number one is I want to go to Duke. Is that the first one I email, or is it my last one, or what do you think?
So this is kind of my whole philosophy in the recruiting process. I think you need to be constantly recruiting yourself to as many different universities as possible. So first and foremost, if you only have 10 colleges or universities in your queue, or saying, hey, what happens if those 10 universities, you don't fit in those programs? What if you feel like, hey, I'm a Division I player, but the reality is that you're a Division II player, and maybe not even a Division II player. Maybe you're an NAIA player. So I think email as many coaches as you can, personalize the email, do your very best, and I don't think the order even matters. So email, if Duke's your number one up, your first choice, email Duke. They're going to invite you to an ID camp, and you're either good enough for that program or you're not. Coaches want to win. I've never met a coach that picks his or her roster and says, "Oh gosh, I hope we lose this year." They're trying to pick players that are going to give them the best opportunity to win. So it's your job as a student athlete or a mom and dad to try to put your son or daughter or the student athlete in the best possible situation to be recruited.
Great. So in your process of getting recruited, one of the coaches that you've reached out to is like, hey, we're interested in you, and whatever the case may be. Is this when you kind of abandon the ship and hop on this ship, or do you keep looking for other schools to go to, or what do you think?
Have they made the real question would be, in my opinion, have they made an official offer? And if they haven't not made an official offer, they're saying, hey, it's lukewarm. I wouldn't stop completely recruiting myself out to different universities, to different colleges, until I had an unofficial offer from that university. So say we used Duke earlier. Say Duke, coach calls you and say, hey, we want to offer you this amount of money to come in and play this fall for us. What do you think? You say yes. I think that's the time where you probably should stop. But if they're just showing interest, that's another thing. Parents and players, oh, hey, I went to that coach's ID camp. Oh, hey, I know that coach from club or whatever else. I mean, this is you're not signed and delivered until it's done. So, I think most coaches are very good at, if they give a verbal commitment out to a young man or a young woman, they stand to it. So I would keep recruiting myself until I had a verbal.
Great. I think as a student athlete, obviously you can count on maybe yourself and your parents to help you, but one person that I think can help you a lot is like your club coach. Why do you think club coaches can be a great resource?
Yeah, depending on who your director of coaching is, who, if they have a college coordinator, whatever the process may be, you gotta ask people to battle for you, to go to bat for you. Hey, so and so from my top club, I've had interest from these 3-4 universities. Would you make a phone call for me and give them their email, give them their phone number, give them everything, and then keep following up with them. Again, not being annoying. Find that sweet spot, right? Find that sweet spot on not being annoying, but trying to help yourself out as well. I actually had a young lady come in this morning. She had not played a ton of minutes for me the past 2 years, but she's graduating with her associate's degree. Phenomenal kid. And, hey, coach, came in with a little sticky note of five different universities. Some of them were NAIA. I think 1 or 2 of them were D2. And one was D1. And she's like, would you call these coaches? I said, absolutely. So I got on the phone, made some phone calls, texted, emailed these coaches, just told them a little bit more about this young lady, and we'll continue to battle for her until she can find herself a spot. But I had no idea in our exit interview that we had at the end of the fall, she said she was wanting to not play soccer anymore. And now, she's now like, I can't imagine life without playing college soccer after playing these last 2 years. I've had the time of my life. And so, she's now looking for a new home and a place to play, which is great.
Great. Last question for you. What type of mentality should a student athlete have when they're going into the recruiting process?
Bulldog mentality, baby. You just can't get sensitive. You gotta work really hard at it. Don't get frustrated. Don't give up. Have patience. And just go for it. Go for it. Try not to, you send out 1,000 emails. You make great highlight film. It only takes one university, one college to bite on that, and you get what you want. That you get what you're training for. But I've heard this saying is a lot of kids these days, they're focused on, which phone they should buy, more on what university or what college they should go. It's a big freaking deal. Making sure that it's a right fit, that you fit into the college, you fit into the players that play at that university or college, that it's academically a good fit, financially it's a good fit. You want to stay there for 4 years, and this is something for you. I think those are just questions you just need to ask yourself and be constantly going after it. It's not just, I'm going to hit it hard for a month or a day. It's constant, and I really would start this process as a sophomore, sophomore year. Start, spend several hours planning out, okay, this is 2019, which ID camps can I go to in the summer, which ones can I go to in the spring, fall, winter. Coaches are holding ID camps all over. How many emails am I sending a week? Which conferences am I focusing on? And I talked about that a little bit in podcast number 1 is, okay, you like school A in the Mountain West. Okay, who did they play? Where did they fall in the standings? Don't you think you'd be interested now in all those other schools? On the men's side, very complicated. It's difficult. There's not a lot of NCAA men's programs in the Western United States. And all over the United States. There's over 100 more Division I women's programs than men's programs. So you do the math. That's over 100 programs. There's around 28 to 30 players on each program. That's how many less males are playing NCAA Division I soccer than women. You got to search out your opportunities, and you got to be able to understand that, hey, if I'm playing at a junior college or if I'm playing at a D2, I'm still a damn good player. And so I think that just understanding the waters of the recruiting and really focusing on it. Maybe watch a little bit less TV or video games or whatever else, and just focus more on the process of recruiting. I think that's got to be the mentality if that's something you want. Very seldomly, coaches will come to you. You have to recruit the coach. You have to recruit the university. And then after all that, you got to make sure it's the right fit.
Great. Well, that's all the questions I have, Coach. Once again, I appreciate having me on this podcast and all the things that you do.
Thanks, JL. Appreciate it.
This is Soccer with Coach Mark Davis.